Hi everyone, welcome to Extra Credit, and today's episode on ancient Rome is brought to you by the letter X. So last time we left Julius Caesar lying dead in a pool of his own blood on the floor of the Roman Senate house. The question now on everybody's lips was what was going to happen next. Would the Republic be restored with freedom and justice for all, or would another dictator step forward to fill the enormous shoes left by Julius Caesar? Well, the answer, as we're going to see, is most definitely option B, and what makes it really quite impressive is the fact that the guy who stepped forward to fill those shoes manages to do so with a baby attached to his leg. So with Caesar dead, all of Rome was in an uproar now, wondering what was going to happen next, and that question was at least partially answered when Caesar's last will and testament was read to the Roman people. In that document, it was discovered that he had named as his official legal heir a young 19-year-old boy named Octavian, who happened to be Caesar's great-nephew. Now, Octavian was a somewhat unlikely choice as an heir. Part of the reason was because he was still only a teenager. Another reason was because he had no actual military career really to speak of at this point. And also, as we'll see, he goes on to develop the convenient habit of getting sick every time a major battle breaks out. However, what Octavian did have going for him was a really sharp political mind and some friends in the right places, whom he will make great use of as his life goes on. In the meantime, though, there was at least one other person in Rome who was really ticked off that Octavian had been chosen as Caesar's heir, and that was a guy named Mark Antony. Mark Antony had been one of Caesar's right-hand men, best friends, and generals during Caesar's lifetime, so Antony thought, not without reason, that the title of legal heir really should have gone to him so that he could step forward to fill Caesar's place. So as you can tell, there's definitely another civil war brewing between these two guys, and really, Romans, just stop already with the civil wars. But before that can happen, Antony and Octavian actually team up together and join forces, the reason being that they want to hunt down and kill all of the men who had a hand in assassinating Julius Caesar. This makes sense because both Antony and Octavian owed their entire political careers to Caesar, and so it's only natural that they would want to defend Caesar's reputation and get his enemies out of the way. So once Antony and Octavian take care of the nasty business of dealing with Caesar's assassins, they train their sights on each other, and they go to war to see who's now going to become the top man in Rome once again. I know a lot of this kind of thing has happened already, but I promise you, we're almost done with it. In this war, Antony allies himself with Cleopatra VII, who is the last pharaoh of Egypt, precisely because she allies herself with Mark Antony. I know you couldn't have known this at the time, Cleo, but wrong choice. Octavian, on the other hand, allies himself with a fellow Roman named Marcus Agrippa, who becomes Octavian's fixer, general, bro, and all-around wingman. So the relationship between Octavian and Agrippa is a little bit like Frodo and Sam, where Frodo gets all the credit because he's the hero, whereas Sam does, the actual work. But finally, the two sides clash in the epic sea battle of Actium in 31 BC, which takes place just off the coast of Greece. In this battle, Octavian and Agrippa's forces combine to crush those of Antony and Cleopatra, which results in Antony and Cleopatra fleeing back to Egypt, where they famously commit suicide rather than submit to Octavian. This also leads to a famous play by William Shakespeare, who really liked to write about death. I mean, really, Shakespeare, it's a little much. Octavian then marches into Egypt and claims the entire country as a province of the Roman Empire, thus bringing to an end 3,000 years of independent Egyptian civilization. He also tried to take a pyramid home as a souvenir, but it wouldn't fit in his carry-on case. Now, those of you who have been paying attention so far in this series can probably guess what happens next, right? Octavian returns to Rome the conquering hero, the #1 man in the city, and the Senate immediately assassinates him, just like they did Julius Caesar, because they're afraid of how much power he's getting. Right? Wrong, actually. What happens is this: Octavian gets back to Rome, and when the dust has finally settled in 27 BC, the Senate, rather than killing him, names him Augustus, meaning the Great One, Imperator, meaning emperor, and by the time of his death, they are literally worshipping him as a god. So, slightly better outcome than Caesar. Now, this all begs the question of why. Caesar comes back to Rome and takes power for himself and is awarded with 23 knives in the back, whereas Augustus, as we're going to call Octavian now, does the same thing and is awarded with the title of Rome's first official emperor. So why does this happen? Why does the Senate that killed Caesar for taking so much power embrace Augustus and worship him? That's a pretty good question, so we're going to count down the top 5 reasons why this took place. Reason number 5. By the time Augustus became the first official emperor in 27 BC, there just weren't that many senators left alive who really hated him or opposed him anymore. After all, in all the civil wars that had happened, so many of his own opponents had already died that any who remained were understandably a little bit nervous to speak up. Reason number 4. The good old days of the Roman Republic, when power was shared somewhat equally at least amongst the wealthy people in Rome, were now a distant memory. Remember, the Gracchus affair that started this whole downward spiral of the Republic happened already over 100 years ago. That means that by the time Augustus became emperor, there were no Romans left alive who even remembered the Republic functioning as it should have. So it was really hard for the Romans to miss this old political system when they had never even experienced it for themselves in the first place. On that note, reason number 3 is the fact that Augustus, being a very good politician, as we talked about earlier, had a very sharp political mind for how he presented himself. Namely, instead of calling himself emperor and walking around like he owned the place, which, he pretty much did, he chose to call himself princeps instead, which was a title meaning first citizen. Also, the Senate chose to elect him consul every single year until they just decided that he should be consul for the rest of his life. Now, everybody could see what was going on here. He was no mere consul or first citizen. He was basically a king now, but even though they could see this, they chose to put up with it. Kind of like playing ice hockey with Vladimir Putin.
Но здесь Каменский, буря рядышком и будет по центру, бросок и счет открыт в этом матче. И будет по центру, бросок и счет открыт в этом матче.
Reason number 2. By the time he was hailed as emperor in 27 BC, Augustus had complete control of the Roman military. Remember, he's won a couple of civil wars now, so the army is pretty much loyal to him and is eating out of his hand. And as any dictator from history could tell you, it's pretty much crucial to have the military behind you because it's hard to stand up to somebody who's got 50,000 guys with weapons behind him. But reason number 1 why the Senate chose to embrace Augustus rather than assassinate him is because by this time the Romans just wanted peace. They were so incredibly sick of civil war. Remember, for a century now, there's been some kind of political strife, violence, or warfare happening throughout Rome where Romans are killing each other for political reasons. People are fed up with this, and they just want to go back to normal life, even if this means trading the power-sharing republican system for the one-man imperial system, as it's now going to be called. This just goes to show that given the choice between freedom and security, it's pretty easy to guess which one people are going to choose. But all that being said, Augustus would go on to become the first official emperor in Roman history and have arguably the most successful political career out of any Roman ever. He reigned for a total of 41 years, expanded the boundaries of Rome, brought an unprecedented level of peace to much of Europe, extended Roman culture and civilization by building roads and cities, he made new monuments in the city of Rome itself, and he even promoted the flourishing of Latin art and literature. And remember, all with a baby attached to his leg. To make it even more impressive, Augustus died peacefully in bed in 14 AD, which is a pretty big accomplishment as we're going to see with other emperors coming up, and he was totally aware of the impact that his life and reign had had on Rome, and so it was fitting that some of his last words as he lay on his deathbed were, "I found Rome a city of brick, I have left it a city of marble." And that's where we're going to leave Rome for today too. See you next time. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching today. It's a great time making extra credit, and today feels kind of special because we are now officially halfway through our series on Rome, which is fantastic. It's been a lot of fun to make this so far. Your challenge for this week is to find out, why exactly does Augustus have a baby on his leg? I mean, really, I don't even know why. So please go and find out and then tell me all about it. As always, stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you back here next time.